Hello everyone and welcome to Golden Nova's First Reacts, where I kind of react first. I was a bit slow on this one, mostly because I don't normally cover singleton cards, but we've built up a bit of a backlog, and while I've already looked at the future ones we're going to talk about, I did kind of want to lump them all into this one while talking about this one that I have not seen, a Baku the Lightless Shadow. I didn't know we were going to be bringing Mobile Suit Gundam references into all of this, but I guess there's a first time for everything. I have no expectations about what this might possibly be going in. Let's take a look here. Baku Lightless Shadow, Link 4, has the Boral Load Dragon arrows, 2 sides, 2 bottom diagonals. 2800 attack, requires 2 or more monsters, including a Fiend, so we've got that whole Fiend Link area covered there. You can only use the first and second effect of this card's name once per turn. During the main phase, as a quick effect, you can discard a card to activate one of these effects. Either destroy a card on the field, or banish this card until the end phase, and if you do, special summon a light or dark monster from your graveyard. Okay. During your standby phase, you can draw cards equal to the number of different types among the monsters in your graveyard, then place the same number of cards from your hand on the bottom of your deck in any order. Oh, that's cool. So, it does require a Fiend, but it does kind of want to be part of a multi-typed deck as well. Now, it doesn't gain you any card advantage when doing this, not to mention the fact that this only triggers during your standby phase, so you're going to be a while before you get any value out of this, but it essentially lets you pick up a ton of cards. Like if you have 3 or 4 types in your graveyard, you look at that, and then you put the same number away. Now, unfortunately, they go to the bottom, so you can't like stack your deck, but I guess if the cards that you want to get rid of are like garnets, or they just don't work for any situation that you're in right now, I guess it's good to get them tucked away under the bottom so you don't have to see them ever again. The first effect, though, I think is going to be what really cinches its usability, and it's some nice utility between the both of them, right? Like destroying a card on the field non-targeting means that you threaten just about anything. It's a discard outlet. Unfortunately, it discards its cost, so not anything that would trigger on effect, so no Shadal stuff, no Dark World nonsense, even though something like this would be perfect for that. And then the second effect is a revival effect. Any light or any dark monster, and it's only a temporary banishment, so if you need to get this off the board, you can swap this out for any of your component monsters, any other big bosses that are in there. That's nifty. I guess the problem is, does this warrant a slot in your extra? Is there a Link 4 part of any deck that might have use for this? And, you know, we might see this as part of, like, Fiendsmith engines. They're already supposed to be making a bunch of Link monsters, so why not include the big one that needs a Fiend anyway? It plays into any Fiendsmith amalgamations, not like the Unchained or the Yubel variants, because those are already Fiends. And I guess being able to see, like, an additional card during your standby phase isn't terrible. But there's gotta be, like, other, like, Fiendsmith Snake Eye, like, that's Fiend and Pyro, and Dragon, maybe, if we get Flamberge in Graveyard, and Spellcaster with Diabellstar, so that's definitely a scenario in which a Baku is going to shine the most, but it's not super explosive. Like, just because you can make it, is the one piece of destruction that necessary? Is that... I don't know. I don't have high hopes for it, but having utility Link 4s like this is nice to have in the back pocket in case the format calls for it. And thankfully, this does have a little description about what the name is, so I get to learn a little something. The Baku is a creature that lives dormant at the steps of the spiral staircase of the Tower of Victory, seeking to become whole atop the tower's balcony at the end of the stairs. It follows travelers in their pilgrimage. Described in the Book of Imaginary Beings in 1957, authored by Jorge Luis Borges and Marguerite Herrero. Well, I'm going to have to look into the literary analysis of that then, because I had no idea. I thought, I'm going to be honest, when I first heard the name of Baku back in old Mobile Suit days, I thought they just made like a funny name. And now we're here. Let's check a look. I'm at the top of my game, folks. Let's take a look at the next one that came over here, Clockwork Knight. This one was really funny to read. Okay, so Link 1, left arrow, 500 attack. Any non-Link machine monster with 1,000 or less original attack, hold. You can only use the first and second effect of this card's name once per turn each. If this card is link summoned, you can send a face-up continuous spell card you control to the graveyard to add a Clockwork Knight from your deck to your hand, and you can target a machine monster with 1,000 or less attack in your graveyard. Tribute one other machine monster, and if you do, special summon the targeted monster in defense position. So I don't know what all of you were thinking, but I was thinking Deskbot support. More uniformly, this is probably more Infinitrack support than anything else. You play heavy forward, you normal summon, or you search out Harvester, you play the Harvester, get your search, and then you link the Harvester off into Clockwork Knight. That lets you turn your heavy forward into an actual card, that being Clockwork Knight. So now you have a big, effectively a 1,000 swing in battle stats. All your stuff gains 500, all their stuff loses 500. And now everything is a machine, so anything type relevant that your opponent might want to use is largely going to be turned off. So that's pretty good for Earth Machine piles. But folks, it's Deskbot. It checks for original attack, so we don't have to worry about any boosts happening to them. We can go Deskbot 3 to Deskbot 2. Deskbot 2 links into this thing once we get our search, and then I don't know what happens past that point, to be perfectly honest. I guess, oh no, I guess what you do is you tribute the Deskbot 3 to get the Deskbot 2, that triggers the search again, and then, so now you've gotten 2 searches off of 1 Deskbot 3, and those 2 could be Pendulum Scales, which is probably what you're really going to need at that point anyway, because you've used your normal summon already. So hopefully you have a bunch of other death spots in hand that you can now just poof up onto the board. And because you get to search both of them, you can guarantee that they're 5 and 6, so they are the best things that you can be popping with your other effects. So I look forward to seeing how this plays out in a number of games. The issue with the Deskbot line is that Deskbots don't have a native continuous spell card, and there's not really any that you play in the deck. You can, however, combo it with itself, right? Like you play a Clockwork Knight spell card, you link into Clockwork Knight the link monster, and then you send one Clockwork Knight to play the other one, which allows you to use the graveyard effect of Clockwork Knight to search you an Earth Machine. So that might be like a little bonus, like a little cherry on top. But of course, Earth Machine is probably more equipped to use this. But I know where my my pencils are sharpened, and it's got to be with my little stationary squad. Also looks very much like Robotic Knight or Machine Knight. It was one of the monsters that's like an old level 5 vanilla. That was one of the big 5 from the Digital World arc in DM. So that's a cool little addition to that. I hope that this means we'll at some point get a whole full-fledged Machine King archetype, because I just like the idea, and we haven't gone anywhere with it. I feel like we can do more. Alright, next up is Delta of Temptation. I would never have guessed that this was zombie support looking at it. This feels very fiendish. This is a field spell card. You can only activate 1 card with this card's name per turn, and then you can only use the second and third effect of this card's name once per turn. When this card resolves, you can send a level 5 or higher zombie monster from your deck to the graveyard. So this immediately turns on Baylor Drock. It's a field spell. You can send Baylor Drock with it. Next standby phase, you got the guy. If a zombie monster is on the field, second effect, you can special summon a Delta token, which is a level 5 token with 0 attack and defense. And if a monster or monsters are added from the graveyard to the hand while this card is in your graveyard, you can add this card to your hand. Which seems to imply that this works if our opponent does that, which is pretty cool. So that's kind of the issue with zombie-themed field spells right now. Unless you're playing a specific zombie deck that has archetypal synergies, you're trying to play Zombie World in general because it triggers all of the generic zombie support cards. Like we said, Baylor Drock is here, and not only does having the field spell Reborn at every turn, because it turns your opponent's monsters into zombies, it'll trigger Baylor Drock's effects when zombie monster effects are triggered. You have things like you can send Eldritch, which I believe only sends from the spell and trap zone to the graveyard, not the field spell. So you can't go Delta, send Eldritch, and then send the Delta to summon it. Double check me on that one. We might go look at that later on once we're done here. But this enables all of your higher level zombies to get into rotation. And then once you have a zombie on board, you get to make a little token. And This is where things get fun, because that's a lot of non-tuner material you get to pair with all of the excellent zombie tuner monsters out there. I was talking with Alexa Torihime earlier, and we were talking about how basically Plague Spreader Zombie, you can get that out for free. Once that's out, you make a level 5 tuner, level 5 token rather, sync those together, make AFD, pop Delta of Temptation, and then get, it doesn't have to be Zombie World, it can be any field spell that you want, and now you have all that locked in. But she was also mentioning that people have been using the Punk cards with it, and of course Punk Zombie is one of those under-the-radar decks that has supreme synergy, and this is just really, really helpful in getting those into rotation. You make a free level 5 monster, you have a deck that's made of level 3 tuners that you can turbo out with one of the strongest quick play spell cards the game has ever printed. This is huge. And you don't have to feel bad about playing Zombie World over this or any other field spell, because once you recycle a monster, you recycle Delta of Temptation. So if the Zombie World or your field spell of choice ever becomes unusable or unhelpful for you, you can slap the Delta of Temptation back into rotation and get all of its value again. So I think this has some real staying power to it. It synergizes with some of the best free agent zombie support that we have in the game currently. It's recursive, it gets you free synchro material for all our great zombie synchros and plays, and it doesn't lock you into anything, is probably the best part here. Normally a token spawning effect like this would say, you can only special summon zombies on the internet for the rest of the turn kind of deal, but no, this is completely fair use. It's free, it's copyright free, use it for whatever play sequence you want. Next up, this was the most, just the weirdest reveal that they've done in a while. Liberato Etho is a level 8 dark reptile. Okay, look, this is an EVA reference, but that's not the card. One second, open image in new tab. We can't even get a good image on this one, but this is just like a planetary size. This is like an Earthbound Immortal amped up to 11. It's a level 8 dark reptile, special summon effect monster, so it's one of the Nami creatures, with 4,000 attack and 0 defense. It can't be normal summoned or set, and must be special summoned from your hand or your graveyard by paying half your life points, while your opponent has a monster card on their field or in their graveyard with an effect that activates in the hand or the monster zone, but it only activates in response to the activation of a card or effect to do so. You can only special summon Liberato Etho once per turn this way. This card's special summon cannot be negated, and this card in the monster zone cannot be used as material for fusion, synchro, exceeds, or link summons. Also, it is unaffected by monster effects activated on your opponent's field during your turn only. Now, there's a big paragraph about what's going on with this one, but the idea is that if your opponent has a monster on their field or in their graveyard that responds to other effect activations, you get to summon this out, not for free, but by paying half of your life points. This can include things like hand traps. You know, they have to be activated in response to specifically certain monster effects. So your Ghost Girls, your Ghost Ogres, your Ash Blossoms, your Bells. Funnily enough, it does not include things like Effect Veiler, because Effect Veiler can be activated at any time. It does not require the activation of a monster effect or a card effect in general to be used. So you're looking for things that have to respond to those effects, but then also things that only activate on the field or in the hand. So also things that are like negation bodies. So like Borreload Savage Dragon should trigger this as well, because you can only activate that negation effect in response to the activation of a card or effect. So it's a weird way to punish your opponent for doing something like that. And it answers a lot of those negation bodies by itself, which I feel like is going to be the primary usage for this. While we have gotten rid of a lot of bodies like Barone, that were like the generic options for negating stuff, now we have a monster that could push through those cards because its summon can't be negated at all, and then it contests those during the battle phase. It makes it so that you can't use it as material for other summons, so this isn't necessarily going to be a big combo piece, and because it's unaffected by monster effects during your own turn, it means your opponent can't use like Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer to get rid of this during your turn, or Trident or any other similar quick effects. That being said, those cards are a bit more resistant to this because of how floaty and they are, and all they have to do is survive until the next turn, but that's a whole other can of worms. The idea is that your monster is not going to be affected by anything during your own turn, except by your opponent's spell and trap cards. Those are all still valid against this. I don't see this being like a game-ending card. Like I said, you're almost never going to pay enough life points to deal more damage to your opponent with this until you're at like the late game, in which case, like in an open game state, you can go, okay, no one has any responses, Liberator, hit for 4K. That is also very very potent, because you only have to pay half your life points, not any specific amount, and it's not a once per duel thing, so once you have this in rotation, you can just threaten lethal damage at some point. So I guess in that regard, this is also pretty cool, especially because this is from the graveyard. Despite the fact that it has these restrictions on how it can be used for material, this can be used as material from the deck, it can be used as fusion material from the hand. You can find a lot of ways to get Liberator into rotation, and then you can summon it right from your graveyard. And then we have to think of all the decks that love having their life points cut in half. You know, friggin' play this as one of your last cards in a Dinomorphia setup. You now have an additional 4,000 damage, and now your life points are even lower. Play this with the aforementioned punk stuff. Now you have yourself, I mean, this doesn't help you turn into Psychic End Punisher because it can't be used as synchro material, but you've lowered your life points even further to make a completely unrelated Psychic End Punisher even stronger. So this card is like, it's situational, but in a way that does win you games, and I think that we're going to see this fairly often. Someone's going to key in on the fact that this is a very strong board breaker against negation-heavy strategies, and is going to turn this into a way to leverage for game. Now, this doesn't help at all with a lot of other decks, like, I don't know, I don't know how battle damage falls into all of this. Like, if I attack a U-Bell monster, does Nightmare Pain still deal the reflection damage? I think it will, but don't let me be the last word on that scenario. Suffice it to say, Liberator Etho, a lot of potential. Keep an eye out for this. This could do a lot of funky nonsense. And the last one that I had, of course, the one that we were all expecting, the latest in the line of the Mulch Army cards, Neus. Level 4 Earth Beast, not Fire, kind of wanted it to be Fire. Level 4 Earth Beast, 100 attack, 600 defense. It has all of the same Mulch Army text as all the previous ones that you've seen before, but this time it affects summons from the graveyard and or banishment. So this is probably the least powerful out of all of them. So Perulia, the first one, was kind of mid. Fool Ross, that's like the gold standard one, the one that's most like Maxi. And then Yaris is just kind of like the only if you're playing out of your graveyard or banishment is this useful. And while it's not like unreasonable to expect most combo decks to do something like this, it's certainly not the catch-all that summoning from the deck or extra deck normally is. Hopefully there's a fire one at some point, because if you just make 3 of these and you don't do the last of the 4 base elements, I'm gonna scream. I'm gonna lose my mind. That's about everything that we've got here. These are some interesting cards. Okay, well, this one's not interesting. This one is just, you know, another version of the Mulch Armies, but I do think Liberator, we are in store for some crazy plays with this. Delta of Temptation is going to be a huge bonus for zombie decks. Clockwork Knight is going to be funny for machine decks. I don't necessarily know if this is going to recontextualize how machines work, but the fact that Clockwork Knight is effectively more searchable now and lets you use some monsters as link material for stuff is going to be pretty nifty. And of course, a Baku is going to be an interesting link choice, but not necessarily one that we're going to see in a lot of decks. This will just kind of be like a tech pick from now on, but I don't expect this to be like the defining card, which means that you should probably keep an eye out for it, because my ability to effectively figure out the impact of certain cards has not really been honed to a mirror shine. You know, I can say stuff about Ancient Gears getting support, and then all of a sudden there's a V-Jump promo. But when it comes to me saying which cards are actually going to be competitively relevant, you know, take the opposite approach on my stuff. Alright, thank you all so much for watching once again. Here's hoping we get some more big drops from Supreme Darkness in the future, and the next time Konami drops some juicy spoilers, I will see all of you next time. Bye-bye. Today's episode is brought to you by Dragon Shield. Get the sleeves as strong as dragon scales and get 5% off your order by using the coupon code GoldenNova at checkout. It was also brought to you by my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commanders, Upstairs Media, and Natiel Lee Alexander, Nebula Navigator's 3rd Dynasty, 50 Gigabytes, Ada Basilisk, Adam Zajdel, Owexotowa Hime, Anansi Dragon, Ancient Wizard, Andrew Newman, Battle Axe, Kane Senpai, Chibi Gohan, Christopher Fuss, Clockwork, Comrade Copperbottom, Eric, Frankie, Garland Chaos, Great Big Pillock, Hair Bear, Happy Majin, Harry the Ominous Benefactor, Iron Zero, Iskander 711, Carp, Mana Charge, Marion James E. Picata, Mega Combi is entering the Chrysalis, Millennia Asta, Muse Clark, Orozco 09096, Panther J, Pat Poos, Rank 10 Trains, Rebel King Lucifer, Red Eyes Jackalow, RJ the Jank Monarch, the Critic of Innocence, Thievery Coast and the Wizard Moose, Cosmic Crusaders Animasta, Baron Von Titty Sprinkles, Buelcifer, Fish, Beluga Masta, Blitzwolf, Caesar M, Chaz Ghost, Dr. Reaper, R.I.P., Eva Padilla, Hike Boyagian, Herbal D, Ignis Heat the True Draco Slayer, Kale the Dragon, Kevon Public, Lobomaru 02, Manga Pages, Matt Simmons, Mick Spoofy, Mike, Nitromo, Not Al Gore, Nyx, Obsidian, Pokemon, Rainer Leong, Rhyme Kairos, Shizuka Nijimura, Sophie, apparently, Stephen Williamson, The Legendary Raven, The Phantom Knights of Shitted Pants, The Gene, Tiger X2476, Weasel King of Weaseltown, and Zaldreka, as well as the wonderful Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. If you'd like to help me in my journey to cover all of Yu-Gi-Oh's archetypes, get my videos early, be a part of these credits and other awesome perks, it would mean the world to me if you would check out the link to my Patreon in the description or consider joining as a YouTube member.